for comedy's sake. So welcome back, everybody. Sorry about the slight issue there. So there is an issue with Godot at the moment with high DPI displays on a Mac. I basically need to be running my Mac at 1920 1080 high DPI. I can't, and then that looks much nicer on my end, but I can't send that out. I have to mirror what's on my screen out to my streaming device. Can't do that in high DPI. So Jan's going to drive, show you this, Hoppy Days. He's more fluent in Godot anyway.
Hoppy Days or Heist Masters? Because I opened the wrong one.
Heist Masters, sorry, starts with an H. Mouth went on autopilot after that. And then we'll start talking about this through the lens of a C# developer.
Okay.
So show them the game to start with, because it's looking awesome. So Heist Masters is the third teaching section in the Discovering Godot course.
Just to
I'm actually really impressed. It's actually a lot of fun. So just play the game for a second, Jan. We'll go full screen-ish.
There we go. Oh, I've got the sound off, haven't I? Let me unshare and reshare 1 second.
Yeah, reshare with the sound, because the sound's an awesome
yeah. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. I'm all prepared. Doo-ba-doo. Screen, computer sound. There we go. Okay. Okay. Ooh, come back. Where'd you go? There you are. Ah, what's a bug? What are you bugging? Oh, what's this?
If you've got a bug, just go back in the stash this and go back in the version control.
My one.
Jan is mid. We did a
signals broke.
What's that?
We broke the signals. That's why.
Just go back to before we did. Yeah, exactly. Anywhere there, yeah, anywhere before we broke the signals. Awesome.
Okay, so I need to close that.
Hey, Avi, thanks for streaming, hosting us again. I appreciate that.
Sorry, guys. This is all very... I wasn't ready to show Heist Masters. I'm happy to. I just wasn't prepared.
Never quite.
I did my homework. The dog ate it. All right, here we are on Heist Masters. We should now run.
It should. Version control. Gotta love it.
Okay, so our dude over here will be easy to see. But here we're on Heist Masters. And
just go to night vision mode for a second. Just so people
I'm just going to do it. You can talk me through it if you like.
Yeah, awesome. So your volume is a little loud, but it's okay. Can you guys hear me over the volume of the game? Okay. Presumably you can. I can also listen for myself and find out. Although it's uber distracting. Just going to check how loud I need to talk over the top of this. Yeah, it is a bit loud. Is it easy for you just to turn the game volume down a little bit, Jan?
Yes, if I start over.
Yeah, so it's going to just start over.
Let's do that.
Wow, this delay in my ear is wonderful. You've got to love it. So then I'll talk you through what's going on. And I haven't managed to complete this yet. In fact, I think you made it and you haven't managed to complete this level yet.
I've made it too difficult.
A little bit of fun. Here you go. So you're in what looks like an office, presumably you're some sort of secret agent or some form of mischief. You have two. Every computer is linked to a door. So in night vision mode, you'll see those two doors are linked together, one and one like that. And then what's going on is you've got two ways of looking at the world. One is that you can look in night vision off mode, in which case you can see the torches on all the guards and the cameras. But you cannot. What's the disadvantage of being in this mode, Jan?
I can't see any of the scenery. I can't see basically.
You basically can't see the world is the main disadvantage, right?
I also can't see what's linked to what. So there's that bug again. I can't see these are linked. I can't see where I am. I can see what they can see. I can't see what I can see.
Okay, you've got a suspicion meter down the bottom, which gives you a very small amount of time inside the light cone of a guard or a camera. And then the job is to go round to computer terminals, find out door codes, remember them literally in your own real head, and then you go through and try and make it. Ultimately, you've got to go and get the vault code and come all the way back, by the way, to the exit, which if you stay still for 2 seconds, if you can, is there, which is right near the beginning of the game. So
I forgot the code. All right, plan B. Yoo-hoo! I'm over here.
If you've got a cheat, oh, okay, you're going to just sneak through the door when the guard comes.
Try it, but I've forgotten the codes. I should have written them down. I've made my game too hard. 9591. Sorry, carry on.
So he's having to go through. Oh, he got seen by the camera. Okay, so that's the essence of it, right? A sneak around game. Pretty cool. Shall we start looking at? Let's start looking at it.
Okay, move you over here. So what if we start with a node overview, just so people can get the feel for it?
Yeah, so if we're Unity terms then, in Unity terms, the scene is going to be, I'm actually going to get Unity open so I use exactly the right terms, but you can see what the scene is. It's what Unity would call the hierarchy. So the scene is like the hierarchy, and it's full of nodes which are a bit like game objects. Now you're going to see some real differences later on, but as a first approximation, that's similar. Now the thing about scenes in Godot is that prefabs are also called scenes, right? If we open up your scenes folder, what we would call prefabs in Unity are also scenes. So the difference between Godot and Unity is that in Godot we extend by aggregation, and in Unity we extend more by composition. So for example, a given node, if you look on one of the nodes, Jan, can only have one, well, we are on a node right now on the right-hand side, can only have one script on it.
Right.
So we have to extend the behavior of that, either through inheritance, so that the script inherits from script inherits from script, or through aggregation, where the script talks to a bunch of other scripts to aggregate the behavior. And we can't say to a node, you've got X, Y, and Z components on you. The other thing we were saying is that scenes are also used as subscenes, right? So if you go into your scenes folder, you're going to have a bunch of things in there that look like levels, like, well, you actually, how many levels have you got in here? It's just one actually.
Yeah.
So there's only one thing that you would call a level. Everything else in scenes is what we would, in Unity terms, think of as prefabs.
I mean, technically this would be a scene.
Yeah. But you can instantiate it into the game scene.
For example, here is a disguise box. This is a scene that is called by other scenes.
So you've got basically recursively nested prefabs, which is pretty cool.
Right. So as an example, here's the GUI. The GUI is a scene that is instanced into level 1. So you can design it separately. You don't have to open level 1. But when you want to run the game, you say, OK, instance the scene. Using this, I can say, here are my scenes. Bring this scene in as an instance here. I can change anything on the instance and not worry about, you know, what the main root is. But if I change it on the main root, everything on every instance will change unless I tell it not to.
Nice. Cool. So that's a massive benefit. So what I think, to give it a little bit of structure, I will focus most of this stream, I think, on Unity from an inspector/editor point of view rather than a C# point of view. When I say that this is a stream about Godot for C# developers, let's start with the editor. Let's understand the differences there, because as I was saying to Teravice live in his tier 3 mentoring session yesterday, if you don't have things set up right in the editor, the code context is all off, you can't do anything. So number one, game view, Jan. Where's a game view here? We don't really have a game view. How does it work in Godot? When we play the game, we get an instance of the game actually immediately spawn up. So when he clicks play, he gets a new instance actually running here. It's not in editor previewing in the same way as it is in Unity. All right, so you get your game instance pop over the top there. Doesn't have a huge amount of functional difference or disadvantage. Apart from, Jan, a question I'd pose about Godot is if you play the game and then pause it, can you then grab like one of the guards and move him? And will it move in the running game instance or not?
If, when you run it, instead of running on local, you run on remote, which will track all of these things. So for instance, there is somewhere in this level, there is a briefcase. When you pick up the briefcase, rather than have a variable that says, okay, briefcase taken equals true, or briefcases in possession equals 0 equals 1, what this is going to do in the player script is actually create a node. It's going to create a node. Here it is. Node.new. So it's a node, just a simple base root node with no extra functionality, and it's called briefcase, and that's all it's going to do. And then the exit script, when you get to the exit, to check if you can leave, if body, the player, has a node called briefcase, do stuff. So it is literally moving that there. We can see that live if I can, there we go back into 2D mode. If I go into move, here we go, and I'm going to move this to right by the player. Move it to right by the player. There it is. That's going to cheat a little bit. All right, now when I press play, I'm in local. If I go to a remote, you can see everything the game is doing. You can see the root, you can see the global script, and here you can see player. When I pick up this thing, you can see the briefcase has just come in. So you can see live changes here. And now anything I do live is going to be measured and can be redone. And then I'm over here.
But it won't continually update our... But it won't continue to update our level or scene view, right? Like Unity does.
I don't believe... Well, Unless I go into debug.
Not in the same way. Okay.
Here. I can sync them here.
Yeah. Okay. And will it stay in sync?
Yes.
Can we see that? Can we just have the script sync scene changes and see what happens when we run?
Okay. So let's see. I think this should just go. If I move this vault back, the briefcase back in the vault, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so you can do it that way, but the scene doesn't move according to what's going on in the game. That's fine. So the editor can send messages to the running game instance and objects can move around. It's very similar. Functionally, it's not really a problem. You're going to get slightly less debugging capability than Unity in that you can't pause and operate directly on the scene in quite the same way, but it's pretty cool. And if functionally, I've not seen any disadvantage when working on that.
Yeah.
So, awesome.
I think the real thing is getting used to the differences. I think one of the main problems with comparing Unity to Godot or Godot to Unreal or even Unity to Unreal is they're similar enough that it feels like it's an easy comparison, but actually the differences are big enough that it's a different way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly don't think that you could make this game as quickly and easily as this in Unity, however experienced you are in it. So that would be my guess here. Okay, next thing, hierarchy we briefly talked about. Hierarchy in Godot is basically here. It's your scene view. It's the tab that Jan's in. That's the most similar thing that we can find that is like the hierarchy. Let's move down. Inspector. Well, the inspector is exactly the same. Inspector. The only major difference with the inspector is that you cannot add multiple of your own custom components or scripts to it. It's not a component architecture like that. You can add one of your own scripts, right?
You can have one script in there, but what you can do is change what's in the inspector and the behavior of the inspector by writing your own scripts and then putting tool at the top. And then the script will run on the engine because the engine is a Godot game. So everything you can do in a game is what's been done with the engine.
That's nice
So
and Inception-like, isn't it? The engine.
Rewrite this to behave how you want.
Yeah, how cool. The engine is the Godot game. All right, so Unity's got a project tab for organizing all your assets. That's basically the same as the file system tab here. Very, very similar to that. Unity has a scene view. Now, we in Godot, we've already talked about the fact that when you're looking at a scene, like Jan is looking at the level 1 scene here.
I'm looking at level 1 scene tree more accurately.
On the right, yeah, but this tab here is what we call a scene view in Unity.
Yeah, what scene I'm looking at, correct.
Yeah, and a bit more like Unreal, whether you're looking at a scene in terms of a level or a scene in terms of a sub-scene or what we would call a prefab in Unity, you're using the same inspector up here, well, the same box, yeah? So a bit like an Unreal blueprint, which is cool. And that's what you want. You want to be able to dive into a scene and an object and a sub-object in a consistent way. So that's really nice. Liking that. The console, where do we get debug? It's called output, right? It's just at the bottom of the screen there.
There it is.
There is an asset store. Should we have a quick look at that? It's nowhere near as big as Unity.
There's an asset library. There's no asset store.
Okay, because you don't pay for anything at the moment. It's all free. It's all open source, as we discussed on a previous.
Sweet time to load. 1 second. I'll close that.
Another major aspect of Unity would be its online services, which Godot aren't at the moment. That's not the business they're in, right? This is an open source, lightweight game engine. They're not trying to sell you online cloud services. So that's just not there.
Yeah.
So that's it. They are the common things that you may find inspector-wise or editor side-wise between the two. Any questions in the chat before we carry on and look at a bit more?
I can't see the chat, so you're going to have to relay those.
I can see the chat.
Someone, I can't remember who it was. I don't want to say the name because I get it wrong. Magica Voxel.
Hey, Heartbeast, nice to see you. Thank you very much, Benjamin Anderson, for hosting us. And hello to all of Benjamin Anderson's wonderful followers.
You guys should check out his YouTube tutorials, by the way, because that's how I got started with Godot. They're really fun.
Check out Ben's YouTube. Well, they will be. They will be YouTube, You Heartbeast on YouTube. And
So-
Ben's YouTube people, Ben's audience, check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/GameDev.tv, which is well, you can see that because that's what he's hosting.
Something I found out today, there is a magical voxel importer in the asset library. You can just put this into your project, and then if you're using magical voxel, you don't have to go through Blender and export. It'll just import the magical voxel file and make it work.
Awesome.
So things like that, it's just great.
And of course, Rick has got a free Magic of Voxel community course that you can get just in terms of, just in return for your email address. So I will make sure that that we have a nice link for a kind of a one-click link for that, and I'll let you know where you can get that from because Rick has made us a small course on that. Awesome.
I'm just seeing if there's any more shaders. No more shaders yet. Okay, so this is the asset library. Currently, everything on the asset library is open source on the MIT license. However, they have said that they're not necessarily opposed to later on opening up for paid content.
Okay. Give me just 2 seconds while I respond to something about this, about making sure people know where to get our magical voxel content.
Yep. I actually didn't know we had one till today. It's very exciting. Ooh, open VR module. Hello. Sorry, I'm playing. La 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 la.
Okay, cool. So I'm asking Lucy about that. That's awesome. So question from Keith. If you write a scene that is then instantiated into a larger scene, what's the best method of passing information from the subscene nodes to the parent scene, Jan?
You have a few options there. One, we have a kind of a workaround, which is, let me close Steam. Go away, fractured space, I don't care. It's kind of a workaround, but we wanted to get rid of the string referencing issue. So one way we've done
Sorry, what issue, Jan?
String referencing issue. What that is because this is a dynamic language as opposed to a static language, if you want to refer to a node or a scene path or anything like that, you need a string, which means if you change it, it doesn't refactor, right? You have to manually go in and change all those things. This can get annoying, and to be honest, when you first saw it, it drove Ben completely nuts. So we look for solutions to that. So one interim solution we have to that is in scripts. I'm going to close that. Too many things open. Hi, Michael. Global. Here we go. It's in a script, and this is literally just a data set, right? It's just where we keep our nodes, our sprite paths, our sound effect paths, and our scene paths. So that's one way we can do it. We can go, okay, global.player dot, and then the function name. Another way you can do it is using signals. We do use signals quite a lot here. For example, if you place a computer, the computer asks a node here called combination for a random combination of a certain amount of digits. The computer says, I need 4 digits. There's one computer here that needs 8 digits, which drove Ben crazy when he first saw it. Then it sends a signal to all the doors it's connected to. And that signal, I can show you that signal. Let's go to the computer. La 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 computer. There you are. Deduce, emit signal. Where's my emit signal? Emit signal. It's going to emit a signal called combination with 2 arguments. What is my combination and what is my ID? The ID is so that the doors can have the same label as the computer. So the player can see that computer is linked to these doors. It's just to let the player know what they're doing. So signals is a really great tool. You can use pre-built ones like on Area 2D, one we use a lot. When body enters, so on body enter, send a signal to whatever node. However, if you want to level up, then I would suggest using groups. Here's what a group is. There is a group called NPC, and every NPC is a member of this group. There is a group called interface, and every piece of the interface is we've actually tidied this up in the latest version of the code. Every member of the interface that needs to be is in this group. So if I go into NPCs, what's my NPCs? Soldiers, and I look at them, what the group does is, back into my script view, what the group does is say, okay, go back to the top of this scene tree and call everything that's in this group and tell them to run this function with these parameters. If they don't have that function, it'll just ignore it, which is amazing, right? So if I have a whole bunch of things that need to happen when you switch night vision on, right? NPCs have to run night vision and interface have to run night vision. I could have put them all in one group, didn't feel good. And then when I press night vision, let's just look at all the different things that have to happen. All of the flashlights, all the torches have to go off. All of these little map notes over here, like server room reception, have to change their visibility. All the door computer labels have to change. That's being managed by 2 group calls, right? One to the NPCs, one to the interface. So I don't even have to run signals. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't break them. It just says, if you're in this group and you have this function, run it with these arguments. So that it would be the 3 ways that I would transfer information like that when I'm instancing scenes within scenes within scenes. I hope that made some sense. and has gone distant.
It did. Awesome. Thank you. So hopefully that has answered Keith's question. Has Keith that answered your question? If it has, I shall move on to the next questions. Skibbity-bippity. We have Teravice. Run the chat on your mobile, Jan, and mute the sound, or use an IRC program. It's a suggestion there. Use Chatty, which is a sort of IRC client. Yep, you suggested that.
I mean, I can just do this and see you guys. I just wanted as much of my screen real estate to be this as possible. I can also get
exactly.
my laptop.
So just why don't you just use your laptop? Use a mobile phone.
I have solutions. I just don't have them right here.
Yeah, move it mobile maybe, but it's worth being able to see the chat. I think it's better that we can see the whole screen like this generally for people though. So welcome back, you Heart Beast. Benjamin, good to see you. Avi says, why would I want to use Godot over Unity? I already know C# pretty well. Why would I want to learn yet another language? Feel free to ignore this question. No, it is within the scope. So look, there are two things I really like. Well, three things. Firstly, you learn a lot about Unity by just working with Godot. You learn a lot about Unity's limitations. You learn a lot about things that Unity does better. You learn a lot. Just fundamentally, you learn a lot about Unity. So that's one reason I would want to not necessarily learn Godot to a high level, but try it and get your mental model around it and then decide from there, oh, wow, I love this thing. Or, okay, I get the idea, but I'll go back to Unity. But the process of being able to look at it for what it is really improves your overall perspective.
If nothing else, it helps you realize the things you've been taking for granted that don't have to be taken for granted, including the strengths of Unity. And Unity has many strengths. There's a wonderful phrase by Sir Ken Robinson, the tyranny of common sense. And the problem with common sense is you never realize that you're making assumptions, right? It's just built in. You don't question them. By examining several engines, or by learning several languages, or by living in different countries, you can start spotting things that you were taking for granted that you never questioned. And then you can go back into Unity and say, what if I do it this way? Or just, hey, that's even better than I thought it was. I'm going to maximize the input on that, right? The more you can compare it, the better you understand whichever engine you want to use. Tyranny of common sense. Great phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, shall we? We'll go more into the C#, I think, in the next stream. But let's look at some of the benefits of Godot from an editor point of view, Jan. So, what are the things that have really struck you that you've seen elegant? And I'll make sure that they are unique to Godot as you talk about them.
I mean, first off, GD script specifically is really easy just to understand. So I've been playing a lot with GD script and I'm getting pretty comfortable with it, right? Ben has looked at GD script, but he's been focusing on C#. So today when he did the code review, I didn't have to explain any of the code. For instance, if we open, I think player is probably our most complicated piece of script. It just tells you what it does, right?
This is before our refactor though.
This is before the refactor. That's the point I'm making, right? You were able to look at, I mean, some of this is a bit messy.
We changed a bunch of stuff for clamps, and we've actually done a whole bunch of stuff since then. But yeah, you can look at it and see what it does, right?
Right. It's very open about what it does. Part of it is it makes it very easy to just build and build and build. So if I want to make a brand new level, for example, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to start. Come back.
And this is a pain in Unity, by the way, guys. Managing your assets so that levels share what they need to share, but are different in the ways they need to be different is a pain. So watch up on this bit. Maybe even clip this bit.
Okay, so I'm going to make a new. What was the node type I used here? It's just a node. Cool. I'm going to make a new node. I'm going to call it level 2. All right. Within that, I'm going to spawn a tile map. And I'm going to call this, let's start with walls. There we go. And I'm going to load in the walls tile set. So auto walls, boop. All right, zoom out a bit. First thing I can do, because I've already set my auto tile as a scene and exported it, is I can just draw the level however I want it. And it'll just take care of all this for me. Then I can make a new one and call it floors and do that. Then what I can do is I can just instance the player scene. So I'm going to go into my scenes. I'm going to find player, move Ben's face out of the way, characters.
So Unity will do this with tile map, and the player instancing we could do using prefabs. But carry on. Just want to make sure.
Okay. So let's say I want a couple of locked doors. Okay. I like to put in organizing nodes just so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to make this one called doors, and I'll make another one called computers. La, la, la. All right, let's put in a locked door scene. Locked door scene. Where did you go? There you are. And let's put you here. That's a good place for it.
TerraVice has a design concern for us, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Cool. Then I'm going to put a computer in. And I'm going to put the computer over here. Great. All right. All I need to do now is link these two. So computers, sorry,
so that's telling
door.
the computer that it's telling the door basically which computer to get its combination from, or the other way. You know, it links
So I
the
just
two
need
together.
to call this signal in computer, right? So what I'm going to do, go to my signals and connect to lock door using that. And it now works, right? So now I can run this scene.
And you can do the same thing in Unity, guys. You just have to be super careful how you set up all your levels, prefabs, etc.
One thing I forgot. I need my combination generator.
And then after that, do you want to show us? Do you want to show us this little bar that you use for the number of boxes? You know the boxes. I don't know if in your game playthrough you showed us how we can hide in a box.
I didn't actually. Let me
maybe show us how we can hide.
Save that as a. Here's another good thing. I now need this combination in multiple scenes. It is not a scene. So let's make it one. Save branches, scene.
This is like prefabbing, guys, similar.
And now I can just instance that combination, and that level should work. Anyway, you get the point. I didn't connect it with signals, but that's how fast you can do that. Let me get rid of this.
Because we haven't designed the game to be multi-level, it's not quite there yet, but
right.
It is super easy.
Okay, so
let's have a look at this. A few of the out-the-box 2D things that you get. So this disguises box we see at the top left of the game here.
If I walk into one of these red searchlights, it goes red, my suspicion meter goes up very quickly, and I will lose. Unless I go all Solid Snake.
Solid Snake. Let me talk about TerraVice's design concern while we're here in gameplay, Jan. So TerraVice says there doesn't appear to be any counterplay to not being able to see the guard's lights in night vision mode. That would be very frustrating to lose without really having notice of you being...
I share your concern. However, every time we play tested it, every single time Ben lost the game, he was in this view. Because the problem is you don't notice how much of the beam you're in. It is very hard to just memorize that. You're right, though. You could make different penalties for it, right?
It actually plays TerraVice pretty well. I played it for about 20 minutes this morning, and it was hard and old school and fun. So design concern noted, it actually plays pretty well.
Don't mind me, I'm just a box. La 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 la.
So Jan, tell us a little bit then about this disguises, how you did that disguises UI at the top left and how easy that was in Godot. What are the components of that?
Let me show you the GUI scene. Here we are in the GUI, and we have three major elements. We have the suspicion display, and this is just a, what is that? That's just a texture rectangle, so that's just a background, on top of which is this roundy thing and a label. The roundy thing is a progress meter. And what it's going to do is it's whatever, so you give it a minimum maximum in the inspector, and then when the script says that value's gone up, it's just going to change between textures. And you can tell it, I want clockwise, I want up and down, whatever. In disguises, we have another really cool thing. We have something called an item list. An item list can spawn in items as text, as icon on text, or as icon. And I could just go in here and say, okay, give me Bob's face. And it's going to spawn in something called Bob's face. Okay? As it turns out, I don't want something called Bob's face. Come back. So I'm just going to delete that item. However, this can also happen in script. So if I go to the player level, wait, I'm actually not in player level. If I go into the disguises script, okay. When the player runs a function, says refresh, it's going to tell you refresh it. So the number of disguises has changed. It's just going to send this thing through that says number of disguises. We're going to clear all the boxes, and we're going to run a while. So while the amount of items we're displaying is less than the amount we have to display, add an icon of this sprite, and false just means don't let the player select it. It's not UI in the sense that this isn't a toolbar, it's just a display. You can make this a toolbar. You can use this for hotbars, for inventory management. It is a really cool
Yeah, can
system.
we look at the design levers in the editor, in the inspector for this?
We certainly can.
Not worried too much about the GD script, but so what have we got in this thing? So this is an item list, so it's a...
Can I select multiple items or can I just select one? So for instance, if I hold shift, can I select different things? So if these are buttons or these are an inventory management system, that's how you do that. Can I select it, deselect it, and reselect it? Can I use right mouse button to select it? How many text lines per item?
Yep.
Are you going to automatically calculate the height of the items? How many columns can I have maximum before I go down?
Okay, cool. Yep, that's nice. The font, etc. So it's putting icons, not the font, the icons. It's putting icons into a grid system for you that reflows automatically based on certain constraints. It's pretty cool. It's a constraint-based UI thing, which is cool because we don't the other place you see that is in things like some of Apple's tools. It's always good to make UI using constraints, and things like max columns. They're asking good questions because it's always a pain to, when you think about how you want your UI to work, you're often thinking in constraints. I want it to be between 3 and 5 columns and yada yada yada. But if I resize it or whatever, you deal with it. This is cool. This is constraint-based, declarative. How do I want this thing? What do I want this thing to be?
And this is something that I haven't shown Ben yet. If you take the time to make the theme, you can make this really awesome. So here's the current theme I'm using in game, and I've gone and made this, right? So I've just imported the assets. And what this means is, let's say I need a button in here. So I'm just going to make a button. This is not a texture button, right? This is just an ugly default box. But if I apply the theme to it, not new theme, if I apply the theme to it, load the theme. Now, it looks like the button interface. So when I made those panels, I didn't spend time bringing the texture into each one, because then if I want to change it, it's going to be a real pain. This is just part of the theme. If I change the theme, everything will change to it. So now I can just put in the text, I am a button, and it will behave like a button. So it'll do the hover, it'll do the press, it'll do everything. And this is true of these panels. It's true of the font. I didn't set this font just now, right? This is not the default Godot font. I set it in my theme. So if I go back to the theme, you can see there's a default font set right here. There's my default font. There's what buttons look like. I've just added all these things to the theme. This means you can skin your game really well, and you can switch between themes in game. So if you want to give different UIs, different HUDs, different customization, or you want to do, I don't know, a weird retro level where now the entire game looks like Mario 64, well, not Mario 64, well, I guess that is retro now, Mario 64, you can, right? So you have an amazing amount of control and flexibility for quite a small amount of work.
Awesome. So couple of things coming up and then in the chat, and also with Avi. So Avi, has asked earlier, Avi in the Netherlands has said, why would I want to consider Godot? Well, hopefully you're starting to see now. It's Jan's talking about, not taking for granted what's going on in Unity, but if something like this theming is harder to do in Unity, then even if you stay in Unity, find a way. It'll make you want to find a way to make it easier. You see, goldfish syndrome. Goldfish are happy in a bowl. They don't necessarily know there's an ocean out there. It could be a better thing. If you discover the things that are better about this, then you'll probably find there's a solution in the Unity Asset Store. They'll do some of this stuff for you, but go seek it. Like, if we were a year ago and you looked at the way maybe Godot's dealing with text or something like that, you may have gone, oh, that's not as good in Unity. I'll go look up Text Mesh Pro in the Unity Asset Store, which is so good that Unity then bought it out and have included it in the engine. So one of the things is don't accept the status quo. Challenge the status quo. That would be, the things you don't know you're missing out on. That's the reason to get this.
Tyranny of common sense again, right? You don't know the things that you really want to put in that Unity doesn't make obvious unless you know that they can be done. Because yes, you could make this game in Unreal or Unity or GameMaker Pro. Of course you could. It would just be a very different workflow, and it may be easier in some engines than others.
Yeah, awesome. So the other side of that, and TerraVice is just asking for a Git link. So I will see if I can find him a Git link for. There's no harm in giving him the Git link to Discovering Godot, is there?
Public, go for it.
I'll give you the link to the entire organization. What you're looking for is Heist Masters, and then you're looking, once you're in Heist Masters, you're looking to switch branch to prototype. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you that link directly rather than making you do any work. So give me just 2 seconds, mate. That'll be in the chat. Then I want to mention something else, and then we'll crack on for a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to mention, Avi and everybody, is you may not be as comfortable in the clothes you're wearing, read Unity or Unreal, as you think you are. So like I used to wear jeans all the time, for example, and I thought they were right. But actually, they're pretty uncomfortable. I now wear stretchy kind of climbing pants, which are much more comfortable in most situations. They're not as comfortable as wearing nothing, right? But that's not very good for business. So you get used to something, and then it becomes your baseline. And then you go from jeans to stretchy climbing pants, and it's, oh my God, I can move again. And then you go from stretchy climbing pants to boxer shorts. You're like, oh, that's even better, but starting to get, questionable. So the same with your engine. If you're Jan sitting here, when's he going to stop making an idiot of himself?
Can you stop describing yourself in various stages of undress? That's all I'm asking.
Yes, I know. They know. They can handle it. They're all big people, or not.
Forget them. Anyway. What about me?
Anyway, the thing is, right, that you're using Unity and you're comfortable with it because you know it. But if you had gone back in the beginning 5 years before you started any of this or whatever and tried Unity, Godot, and Unreal with a very blank canvas, one of those is likely to have suited you, your personality, your mental models, your way of thinking better than the others. And if you're now used to Unity, there's a chance that you would just vibe and get on better. After an initial activation energy, after an initial hurdle, you may get on a lot better with either Unreal or Godot. Give yourself that opportunity. Allow yourself to fall in love with. This isn't marriage, right? It's the fallacy of sunk cost to say I've put a lot of time into Unity. It's not worth shifting because you can transfer a lot of your knowledge. So I'm not suggesting anybody moves from Unity. If you said pick one game engine, Ben, teach us all that, it would be Unity. I've got to say that from the start. But I do advise diversity. I do advise maturity about looking at different options. So.
Totally. There's something I want to show. There's some things that Godot just handles better. So here's an example of the kind of thing that you can just do really easily in Godot, and maybe not as easy as Unity, and think, well, why can't I do this? Let me find a solution, right? So an example. We have here these coins. If I play Hoppy Days, which I'm going to turn the sound down on because reasons.
Yeah, I can't differentiate between your game sound and your... From this end, I can't mix the difference. So.
Okay, here are the coins, right? When I pick up the coins, they get bigger and they vanish. The first way I did this in the prototype, and it was actually Lars at I forgot his last name. I'm sorry, Lars, at the Game Design College in Berlin. I've forgotten the name of that too.
Lars Kokomo, yeah.
The easiest thing to do, right, is just to use a tween. I'm going to tween between values. It's not the easiest thing to do. The easiest thing to do is the solution we came up with, which is just to use the animator. So we have an animation player, and here's what it's going to do. It's going to make the thing big and small, and then call the cue-free function in the animator. You can animate everything, not just things like scale and property and modulation, right? Not just the physical properties. Everything can be animated in the animation player. That's awesome. That means I can write behavior, which means if I decide, okay, you're now going to play over 3 seconds instead of 2 seconds, I don't have to worry about timers. I don't have to worry about anything else. I just need to know, put this where I want it to happen, and it will happen, right? So out of the gate, that tween effect is much easier to do. It's also happening in the HUD. Every time you pick something up, it's just come back, right? The animation thing is awesome in Godot. Unity's one isn't quite so robust, but you could make it robust. You could find the right plugins. You could code a solution that would make your life easier. Would it even occur to you to do that if you didn't know, wait, someone's done that, why can't I do that?
Yeah, that's the real power. Awesome. And this is before we get into the language advantages and disadvantages, which we won't do in this stream. We don't have the time. We want to end in 10 minutes. So we won't talk about C# in detail about C# versus GDScript at the moment. I can give you an overview. If you want an off the top of the head overview, it would be that when operating in GDScript, what consistently bugs me is how unsafe it is to rename things. You're basically doing textual find and replace because it's a dynamically typed language, and it doesn't know so much about the types before runtime. So I'm finding that quite annoying because I'm very keen that names are right or comfortable or meaningful, and it's quite easy. So you need to push harder on your renaming. You need to say, oh, I really should rename this, so I will. Not, I should rename this, but it could go wrong, so I won't. No, use version control, use your sensibility, do the renaming. That's one thing that's a bit annoying. One thing that's great is just the syntactic simplicity and clarity. Awesome, just really clean, tight, short, love it. forced indentation, like Python, like forced indentation. The indentation gives you the meaning. There's no chance that your code blocks aren't indented properly because they have to be there. So there are pros and cons both ways. And when you start doing things like JSON imports, you're going to want to be in something like JSON or Python or GDScript. So cool, Jan. What else do you want to show them on this project here? Wow, my daughter's just gone past
on
really
this
fast.
project. I'm trying to think what they haven't seen. The camera is very simple. There's a slight
Let me bring up the suggestion then, which is that in night vision mode, if we can see it in night vision mode, several people are agreeing that maybe it would be better if the lights were brighter in night. What are you actually saying? That basically whiteout in night vision mode, but what are we exactly saying? Suggestion from Teravice, make the light brighter and so you can't see anything in the beam of the light, adding another challenge. Okay, so what he's saying is if the player is within the beam of a light in this mode, the whole screen whites out.
Yeah, okay, so instead of telling it disable the lights, what I would do is change the energy for the light, okay? So
yeah, I think that'd be worth a try, that'd be fun, because in reality, if you're there with there's two types of night vision from my military days. You've got photo multipliers, which do exactly what they sound like. They multiply out photons. You receive a few photons, you make many. Resolution is not as high, but it doesn't need any infrared, doesn't need anything else. It can just use ambient, like moonlight or whatever. Or there's like infrared, which is like, it's perfectly bright in this room in the infrared. There's infrared floodlights everywhere, but hopefully the other guys aren't looking through something that can see infrared. In either of those,
wrong script.
If it's visual light and you get somebody shines a torch at you, it will white out in a green photo multiplier environment. So that's quite an interesting idea. Be interesting to see how it changes the gameplay. The only problem is, guys, with that is that if you're in their beam, you've got so little time before you're stuffed because of the suspicions gone up that it'll alter how it all works.
Just trying to find the method. Hang on a second. Vision mode change. Why can't I see you? Because it's not part of that. Oh, I know why. It's in detect player. Okay.
Night vision, time limited night vision. So I think we're going to gracefully bow out of the idea.
Night vision is very simple. I did that with the disguise.
Yeah, I think we should bow out of the idea of whiting out, just because if you're in the beam, you're dying anyway so quickly that you kind of.
But these are the kinds of challenges we're going to put to you, right? So, for instance, I have awesome a challenge I want to ask that you do at the end of the section on my piece of paper here. And they include things like, how would you add a way so that the player could see what's solved, right? So the player could build up on that expectation. How would you put in checkpoints in your level? So if you get to a certain point, you have the option to go back to the previous checkpoint. There's all kinds of challenges we want to give you. There are many different ways you could tweak this game to make it perfectly yours, and we want that to happen. But what we're going to do is give you the tools to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's already well and above most of the games that we've got in most of our courses, to be honest, in terms of how fun it is to play, how engaging it has, how complete, I started judging it today when going the prototype on the basis that I'd be judging like a Steam greenlit game, which is ridiculous when it's just one of our simple prototypes. So hat off to Jan, not that I've got a hat over there. Hang on, I could put the hat on just so that I can take the hat off. I don't know whose hat this is. I think it's mine. It's ridiculous. Hat on, hat off to Jan for making such a good game.
Chapeau.
There is a question, Jan, about, and probably maybe we go to our faces for the last 5 minutes, shall we?
Yep.
So if you stop the screen, or I can probably abort your screen for a good blow.
Thank you.
There's a question as to whether you should use the native language GDScript or C#. I'm going to recommend that you use GDScript most of the time because it's the native language. You have to write less code. You honestly will pick it up quickly if you're any good at coding. If you're good at C#, you might think, oh, well, I should stick with C#. Well, if you're good at C#, you can easily do GDScript. If you're not good at coding, you can easily do GDScript. When you get to something that's going to be better in C#, go and switch over to C#. Yep. But I would start off in GDScript. Probably. I'm just thinking this through. There is I would start off trying GDScript in both cases, whether you're a beginner or not. Yeah, if you're not a beginner, if you're a beginner, it doesn't make sense to try and go against the grain and use C# from the word go.
We've had quite a few people in the Kickstarter, or quite a few Kickstarter backers who've come into Discord and they say, I really don't want to use GDScript. I don't like dynamic languages. I know C#, but Ben, the content isn't there yet, so I'll just go through it so I can catch up with Ben. And by the end of it, it's like, actually, I quite like this.
Yeah, that's what I think.
It's not the language you're used to, so it's going to feel alien at first, right?
And it may feel like it's not transferable because it's not Python, but it's so close to Python, it will improve your Python knowledge. We're going to be using more Python in game development for high-level scripting, business rules of the game development dialogue trees, that sort of thing.
And a great point here from Benjamin Anderson that with GDScript getting typing in version 3.1, the legendary 3.1, I always get those words confused, you can now type in GDScript.
Yeah, as in typing, as in, strictly type, therefore you can refactor more safely. The other thing I would say about this, I'm just trying to think what else I was going to say about GDScript versus C#. Obviously, know when you can mix and match in the same projects and know when to go into GDScript. JSON imports, perfect example. There was something else, but it escapes me at the moment. I'll just look through the chat because that'll remind me.
It's very fast, it's very light, it's very easy.
The tool set. I would recommend, though, configuring Visual Studio Code properly. Now that we've configured it properly in my latest videos, when you double-click to script, it goes to the right place in Visual Studio Code, because that's going to be more transferable. I mean, sure, try the built-in editor, but if you're doing this to try and make yourself a better coder, particularly if you're a beginner, you probably might as well, because it's there to be learned, you might as well use Visual Studio Code, because it's a good option. It's got a GDScript extension in it, so it'll syntax highlight GDScript. It's actually becoming quite a powerful editor. It starts small but gets big as you add the extension. So I'd give yourself that level.
I would agree with that. I don't enjoy using VS Studio. Is that the right one? I always get them confused.
Visual Studio Code, yeah.
Visual Studio Code. But I had to give it a shot to find out. It's actually very good. There's a couple of bugs in the way that when Godot pulls up an error, it'll open the script in there and then over here, and then it doesn't save properly.
Yeah,
I found it easier to go straight back in to the in-game editor.
Yeah, the question is, we've only recently, with the help of the community, found exactly the right flags, execution flags that we want.
No,
so
I
my
sent them
latest
to you.
content,
You didn't see the message. The one with the file and the column and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and the project and all the rest of it. But now we've got those flags sorted. It's working pretty nicely, which is cool.
It does work very well. And to be honest, go with what you're comfortable with. But you don't know what you're going to be most comfortable with until you give it a real shot. So try it.
Absolutely.
I'm not as proficient with C# and so forth as Ben, nowhere near. So for me, VS Studio Code, VSC, whatever.
The S in VS is
not as important to me because I'm very comfortable in GDScript and the engine handles GDScript very well. And
yeah, exactly.
The problems that the engine will have with things like you can't just use find and replace to refactor, actually going to have that problem in VS Code anyway.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have it, for instance, guys, in well, you would have it in PyCharm because it doesn't use Python, but if it was actual Python, PyCharm does allow you to refactor in Python pretty well. I guess the point is you want to be clear on your intention. If your intention is to make games in Godot, then just go straight down, just go with the flow, right? Use the internal editor, use GDScript, get on making games. If you're learning to code by making games, which is another part of our core proposition, then you want to stretch yourself a bit harder. You want to use Visual Studio Code because it's it's more transferable, and I'll just stretch yourself, and I'll mix and match GDScript and C# and these types of things, and I'll use Godot, but I'll also use Unity and a bit of Unreal. So it depends. Just be very clear on your intention. Why are you doing this? It's entertainment to hear us goons going on. Well, then come watch us on Twitch. If it's to learn to code by making games, take those courses. If it's to learn Godot, just to make games in Godot, take that course, So it's about being clear on your intention.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, and give them all a shot.
Visual Studio Code will let you find and replace in multiple files at the same time. Yes, Bindi, but you're doing it based on a string, and you have to do it carefully. Now, if you're going to do it, number one, be very good with your naming conventions inside your code. So if you're going to use a word that's a subset of something else, then be careful. Use naming conventions, prefixes consistently, cleanly, and simply. And the other thing you want to do... What's that?
We had this today. I had a variable called ID, and Ben's like, I don't like that. I'm going to rename it. And everything with the letters ID got renamed. All the hide functions, everything.
Yeah, so one thing you can do is go to Wolfram Alpha, and you can do things like type into Wolfram Alpha, and I'll give you a link to this search in a minute. I think it's words containing ID, for example. And if you put that search in, I'll just check the search, then I'll put it in the Twitch chat. It'll come back and show you all the English words that contain ID. The sequence ID, yes, it's at the top of this page. So I'll put it in the Twitch chat. So this is one way you can check your substrings aren't going to be all over the place. How many common words are there that contain this? The other thing you can do to get around the difficulty of refactoring in a dynamically typed language is, it'll help a little bit, is to get a little bit used to using regex. Rather than doing a straight string find and replace, use regular expressions to say, well, I'm looking for specifically this token on its own with space either side of it. That sort of thing can help you, but then you have to get used to regex. It depends how advanced you are. So between conventions, being careful about using names that are clear substrings like ID, loads of words contain ID, very few words contain TODO or ACTP. I used to use for action point, ACTP, but then I found out that very few words, in fact no words contain TODO either. Oh, that's not, no, they don't. Well, we can check it on Wolfram Alpha. There you go, exercise to the reader. Go use that link I just gave you. Go to Wolfram Alpha and tell me how many words in the English language, common words, contain the sequence TODO. Words containing TODO. I think it's none. I used to use ACTP, action point, and then I think I checked this and, no, there's tons, actually. Yeah. 27. 27. Things like octodont and it's all weird things, but there are a bunch. But you can make the conscious decision that it's not that likely to come up. So the most common word in the English language that contains a sequence that I even recognize, I don't recognize any of them. So I'm not going to be typing any of these. Mastodonic, maybe. Mastodon. It's pretty rare, right? ACTP for action point is even less.
You don't use the Mastodon function in Unity?
No, exactly. So these are the types of considerations you want to consider. Oh, actually, ACTP has packed of. Oh no, it's an acronym. Yeah, so no words contain ACTP. So I used to use that for action point, but I just went with to do because that's what all the editors use, and it's good enough. They're the considerations. You know, word subsets, search mechanism, prefixes, underscores. You know, that's.
Yeah, you'll never need, unless you might be in trouble.
Yeah, Jurassic, exactly. Really appreciate that. Unfortunately, we're going any second now. Unless you want to spend another 10, 15 minutes or even maybe longer, Jan. I don't know how you're fixed, whether you want to talk through. I can spend. Well, as we've just been honoured by being hosted, we'll spend just another few.
This is a lot of stuff. Okay. I'm going to show you something called a grid map. Let me share my screen. And this is something I haven't shown Ben yet. So, Ben, welcome back.
Hello.
Are you familiar with a tile map?
I am familiar with a tile map. Thank you, Jan.
Okay, let's do that in 3D then. Racing assets. Now, unfortunately, the bug in this... load. There we go. Oh, not materials. Racing. Yeah, mesh library. There we go. I'm going to load a mesh library called track. Unfortunately, the back with the bug right now is it's not keeping the material in place, which is really annoying. But if I save that, some of these will have a material. What I can do is I can very quickly build a track just the same way that I would use a tile map.
So this is basically
that you really should have. The downside with this right now is that there is a bug where when I save it and I come back in, it removes all these and I have to go manually import the material back on each thing, which is a pain. But it's pretty sure it's getting fixed. But that is amazing. Like if you have these assets in there and they just click into place like this, never mind racing games, platformers, RPGs, anything where you could just snap things in, that's outstanding. And I have like this particular person, he's not Kenny, he's inspired by Kenny. Again, on the CC0 license, you can also use and all these other things. Really cool stuff. So if I doop.
Nice work. Okay, awesome, Jan. I think we're going to start to wind up. I'm going to do two things to improve the stream from here. I'm going to reduce the... I'm going to put us on not on low latency mode because I don't think it's worth it. And that gives us a little bit of buffer. So we're going to normal latency. I don't think it'll apply to this stream, but it will move forward. So that's that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Mac, which isn't actually doing the streaming, it's a piece of hardware, off the network group that's involved in the streaming. Because I think that when my backup program comes on, it's probably influencing. So I'm going to take that back off so that, okay, I'm going to get slower uploads and downloads because I'm sharing with all the rest of the toe rags in the family. But you guys will have a better experience. So that's the second thing I'm going to do that's going to help with that. So thank you for your feedback. It's always good when you tell us stuff isn't great. We'll get there. What else? I think we're pretty good to go. What I do want to do is make sure that there is a follow-up event. So for this series, I always like to have a follow-up event for every series. So Discovering Godot, we don't have another one. I'm going to make a new event right now and tell you when it is. So let's just decide when it's going to be based on calendars and stuff. I can't do this time next week because I will be away. We could skip a week, Jan. You could do a rerun next week optionally if you want.
Yes.
Or ask Sam or Rick too. They'll just go into Twitch, hit rerun, and you can be there for the chat for one of the earlier ones. That could work. Oh no, I could do this time next week.
Could you?
Well, yeah, I could do the same.
Is that the
time
day
we
you
did
get
today.
back?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. No, it's the day after I get back, 5 p.m. Same time next week.
Because we
guys.
used to do Fridays.
What's that?
We used to do
We
Fridays.
did used to do them on Fridays, but you guys in the chat, Friday or today, what do you prefer? Wednesdays or Fridays for this stream?
Is Godot a weekend thing or a midweek thing?
Yeah, exactly. Wednesday or Friday, you tell us. I'm happy to do it at 8 p.m., so 2 hours later than now on Friday. That would also be fine. Let us know in the chat what you want. I don't know if you can see the chat, Jan, and help me out by letting me know.
He has Twitch addiction. He'll be here.
He has
Both
Twitch
is
addiction. Okay. It's Twiddiction.
Do.
And this is episode 4, isn't it?
So far, everyone's happy with either.
Awesome. We'll go back to the Friday, Jan.
Sweet. And then I can get straight from that into playing stuff. We were considering getting a fully decorated build of Heist Masters and then getting people from GameDev to play it. So actually export it and send them the file. Although the next one we're going to play is probably Human Fall Flat, because I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that is on the schedule. So guys, look at our events page. You'll see when that is. The next in this series is going to be a week today, the Friday, the 3rd of August at 8 p.m. Just before we play Human Fall Flat, then at 9 p.m. So the next stream's in a week. Do take a look at our events page. It has all of the stuff in there. We've always got a fairly full event schedule at the moment. It's quite taking me time to do all this, but it's so worth it. You guys are great. Please do continue to subscribe. Remember, I think, Bindi, you said that people can upgrade their subscription, that Amazon through the Amazon Prime can pay for the base subscription, and that in some countries, under some conditions, with some terms and conditions applying, you can pay a little extra to upgrade. If you go just up to tier 2, then you'll support us 240% more is what we get in our pockets. And that really helps us to continue. So Bindi will explain that. Oh, he didn't upgrade in the end. Okay. So anyway, if you want to be tier 2,
planning
that's that.
to do anything on the Godot GUI container system? Yes. We did a little bit in Hoppy Days, but yes, actually in this game, we are doing exactly that.
Awesome. Thank you for everybody who's supporting the channel. It's been really, really great to have you here. Thank you, Benjamin Anderson, for supporting us. Please do check out Benjamin Anderson's streams on or his YouTube videos. I will go and get you his YouTube link now. So YouTube, You Heartbeast. And just make sure that I'm giving you exactly the right link to exactly the right channel. He is going to teach you a lot about Godot as well. Awesome guy. We love Benjamin Anderson. Here is the link to his channel right there. I'm just going to bring up my end of stream checklist on my phone just to say what else needs to go on at the end of this stream. And then I'm away. I'm away tomorrow, so I will not be back for a week or so. Take a look at our events. That's it. Follow us. Enjoy. Keep supporting. You guys rock. If you really want to just straight up donate to us so that we can reinvest in the channel, that's available on the bottom of our homepage as well. We've got gear on there. There's all sorts of ways you can support. But you're doing great, so thank you for being here, and we will see you when the dragon. What's up with that?
Nothing.
Anyway.
Damn, he's finally seen
Not
it.
me, go. All right, mate. All right, everybody. Nice to see you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.